welcome back to Knights of the Dirty Table. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Parker Henry, who has not been really at the table, I think, in like a year and a half, honestly. I think the last time...
October, I showed up for the D&D game that one time.
Oh, I wasn't there for that one. That's right. Okay, I was thinking of Christmas all that time ago.
I showed up, I played a cleric of Thor.
Nice.
Yeah. And I used Insect Plague, which we didn't even take seriously until I cast it and ended up killing the thing.
Sounds accurate of any character that you would like to portray in any given D&D game.
We were joking about that ability, but it was actually awesome.
So why you're here today on very last-minute order, of course, we had just talked about Justice League, the theatrical cut specifically, because I have not actually sat down and seen the Snyder cut yet, only because I wanted to save my opinions on the theatrical cut so that I could put them out there and then forget about them.
I should disclose to everyone else here that I have seen the Snyder cut.
Of course.
And I'm going to refrain from saying spoilers about it. Just so full cards on the table.
Yeah, no, thank you. Feel free to, you just heard my opinions on the movie. What are your thoughts on the theatrical cut of Justice League?
Theatrical cut. It's too short, I thought. And see, my problem with both Batman v Superman and Justice League theatrical cuts is that I didn't necessarily know what was happening because transitions weren't clear. But then a difference between the two is Batman v Superman, I could tell stuff was happening, even though I couldn't understand it because of messy transitions. The theatrical release of Justice League, I didn't feel like much was happening. Or at least I didn't feel that in the theater. Yeah, of course, stuff was happening, but it's just a lot of content got cut from the movie. And really, the theatrical release only used about 30 minutes of the 3 hours of footage that Snyder had shot before he unfortunately had to leave the project.
Right.
And then there were all these reshoots that happened when Joss Whedon took over, to the point where the actors themselves said, hey, this is not the movie we shot.
Yeah. It really happens often with many projects. Like, you sign on for one idea, it can change during the pre-production process. Scripts can change during the actual filming process, and even then in the editing room, they can change even more once you are done filming everything, even with reshoots, and that's if your director is the same, which most movies are for their reshoot process.
You can have things like that even happen with more positively received movies like Avengers Endgame. The actors thought they were filming a wedding with Tony Stark's funeral.
Oh yeah, but their formula is so solidified at this point.
They do this on purpose.
They know exactly what they're doing now with that. They were still figuring themselves out with
this
BVS
one,
and Justice League going
unfortunately, with Justice League, it was just very chaotic, as you said, with the production.
Which is a shame because, again, this is the Justice League movie.
Yeah, and like you and I grew up on the 2000s Justice League cartoon, which was dope.
People forget that DC was really the king of the medium at the time. Now, granted, we had the X-Men movies and we had Spider-Man, so it's not that Marvel wasn't there, but this was Sony and Fox. This is not the Marvel Studios Disney that we know now. Like, it was a very different time. Those X-Men and Spider-Man were the two main Marvel characters. Everyone else, the Avengers, they were nothing. They were a joke in the general audience. Justice League was the cream of the crop for superhero team-ups, and especially with the series that was out.
And in that decade, with Justice League the cartoon out, you had the X-Men movies and you had the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. Batman and Superman already had their successful movies.
They did.
With Christopher Reeve and Michael Keaton.
Yep, and even Batman Forever. They already had these established franchises out there.
Batman Forever, okay, that's more of a mixed bag. But...
Yeah, no, I get that. They were already established in mainstream, and they still are the two biggest heroes in terms of comic book acknowledgement. What people know, they know Batman, they know Superman, and they're the two biggest ones. And
honest trailers joke about the theatrical cut for Justice League is, this movie's just okay. You have the best characters of all time.
I do agree with that statement. Absolutely, that did influence what I was writing. I agree. It, for all things considered, for it to be meh, I do agree that it is a failure in that regard.
I actually think it's worse than meh.
And that's fair. Why don't you go a little bit more into why you think it's worse than meh?
Just the jokes did not land. For instance, okay, this is the theatrical release for the movie. There's a scene where the heroes fought the resurrected Superman.
Yep.
Superman has like one line. Well, actually, I'm going to say something awesome about that scene, but first I'm going to say the bad thing about that scene is he picks up Batman and he decides to mock Batman and say, "Tell me, do you bleed?" Then he drops Batman and says, "That is a God, yeah, I'm bleeding. Awesome part of that scene, though, is when he's holding up the Cyborg, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. Then Barry decides to speed fast, and then Superman just looks at him angrily.
Now, is that not in the Snyder Cut?
It is in the Snyder Cut.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Just
It's
done
actually
differently?
very similarly, actually, but there is a difference.
Okay, fair enough.
I will. Maybe I don't
I'm
want to.
sorry,
get too
guys.
much
I
into
feel bad for talking about something and not having the other cut. This is my fault, but
it's okay.
also there's a method to my madness.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna say any big spoilers about the Snyder Cut for anyone else who happens to have not seen it yet. But there's that scene where Ezra Miller just has that oh shit look in their eye.
That was great.
That was
Even
my
watching it now.
that was my
very
favorite
well executed.
And that was actually, since that was actually in the Snyder Cut, you realize that was something Zack Snyder shot.
Not surprised.
Yeah. Well, a difference between the Snyder Cut and the Whedon Cut, music. There are a couple scenes in the theatrical cut that I didn't like, but with the Snyder Cut they worked because of a difference in lighting and a difference in music. Editing can make or break a movie. Seriously? I did not realize that until I watched the Snyder Cut.
Isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sound and lighting,
even just aesthetically, like, and again, this is without having seen the Snyder Cut, but you could tell the clear difference between like how BVS is shot and it's colored and everything. Compare that to Justice League, and Joss really went out of his way. I'll say him and his team. I won't give Soul credit, but Joss and his team really went out of their way to change the tone of color with this movie when they're fighting Steppenwolf and like just taking away all the darks and stuff, and that's probably
they changed it from the blues to that awful orange in the theatrical cut.
That is probably because they were trying to cover their tracks, because Warner Brothers was just coming down so hard on everything post Batman v Superman. They really wanted this to be a success, and they were pushing. I really think the executives had much more of a handle in this than say Joss Whedon. That's why I can't give full blame to him, because there was so much pressure after BVS after getting down to 28%.
See, like there are the misconduct allegations with Joss Whedon, which are unfortunate. It doesn't explain to me why. That doesn't 100% explain why Justice League theatrical cut was just so meh. Because Joss Whedon has directed some great works like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes.
Or that have been very well received. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Avengers 1, Avengers 2, good movie. Not like a flawed movie, but a good movie.
You know what might give some explanation to that? All of those projects you just talked about, Joss Whedon signed on from the beginning to be involved in those processes. Justice League, he was brought in afterwards, long after the start of production on this film, to Frankenstein something. Quite frankly, he was doomed from the start. Anyone who would have taken on this movie was doomed from the start because there was so much executive push. The fact that he had to cut out scenes, two very small bits of things, and I noticed this on the Blu-ray, that both involved Superman. The scene where he is getting his new suit, his new shiny blue and red suit, and he actually walks past the black suit, which he could have done, but he decided, this version of the character decided not to do it. That was like a minute segment scene just to show that he got his new costume. He couldn't even keep that because he had to get it down to 2 hours. Oof. And there was also the scene where Superman comes in to meet Alfred, Jeremy Irons' Alfred.
Yeah.
Just very quick. And that was only like a 2-minute thing. And he couldn't even keep that because he was so mandated to get the 2-hour cut to be the way that it was. So, yes, a good amount of blame goes to Joss Whedon, but the push for 2 hours was so high up, it's disgusting.
Well, both those and more are in the Snyder Cut.
I'm not surprised especially with something like streaming too, where there really is no actual limit.
You have numerous things from the trailers for this theatrical movie that didn't make it into the movie in the Snyder Cut.
Not surprising,
like the football game for Cyborg,
because they were shot by Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
it makes sense to give him more character development. I'm not surprised by that at all. So, so you've seen every DCEU film, correct? Is there anything you haven't seen?
I have not seen Shazam.
Ah, man. Okay.
Yeah, but that's okay because Shazam had nothing to do with either of these movies.
Right, exactly. So based on every DC Extended Universe film that you've seen, obviously this doesn't include Joker, because I do think this is the best DC film that's come out in a long time.
Else.
How low would you rank the theatrical cut of Justice League in the overall DC films that you have seen within this universe?
The DC Extended Universe, the DCEU, that's the actual name. I think I put it above Suicide Squad, but not by a whole lot. Maybe below Suicide Squad. Ooh.
Fantastic. So it's at the bottom for you, is what you're saying.
Bottom or second bottom. Like, Man of Steel, I like Man of Steel. I know it's got flaws. I liked it. Batman v Superman, I have issues with the transitions. Like, for the theatrical cut, I didn't know what was happening in the thing. I had to Wikipedia it later to understand why some characters are doing what they were doing. Lex Luthor had a great plan. It just didn't make any sense in the theatrical cut.
That's fair.
As opposed to like Helmut Zemo's plan in Civil War, that relied a lot on luck. Lex Luthor, I believe he could have made it work anyway. Helmut Zemo, he had to be like, oh yeah, I got lucky because Wanda blew up those people in Lagos. His plan wouldn't have worked.
So where would you rank the Snyder Cut amongst all the DC Extended Universe films? Now, obviously, taking out the theatrical cut, that's kind of just going to be non-existent anymore going forward. Where do you put the Snyder Cut in your overall DC?
I can put them both in a ranking. But, Snyder Cut, I'm going to put that... Okay, then there's Birds of Prey. I have to think about whether I like Birds of Prey or Snyder Cut.
So there's Aquaman, there's Birds of Prey, there's Shazam, there's 2 Wonder Woman movies, there's BVS, and there's Man of Steel. And that's everything off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, not...
Did I say Suicide Squad?
Maybe. Okay, so... But we already know I put Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
so.
right. Yeah, that's fair.
I think Snyder Cut could be top 3 without thinking too hard. And without wasting time trying to think too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it lived up to the hype. If anyone told me a year ago that I would be watching the Snyder Cut and it would be as good as it was, I would have laughed my ass off at you. But it came out, it was made, and it was good.
It's funny. This isn't the
perfect. No, but
no, definitely.
Good, very good. I enjoyed it.
Good.
Yeah.
It's.
I didn't feel the 4 hours weighing on me too much. We watched it in 2 sittings, but still.
That makes perfect sense because again, it was a part 1, part 2 story. So I'm not surprised in the slightest.
The conception for the release when it was clear the Snyder Cut would actually happen was it would be like a 4-part miniseries released in hour chunks.
Right. I'm glad they didn't do that.
It ended up being 6 parts or so. I think 6 parts.
Yeah. In terms of chapters, I'm glad they didn't do the episodic stuff. I think that would have kind of killed the mood of what Zack wanted to do. I'm glad that they pulled back on that idea and just committed to a 4-hour movie. It's a lot, but
let's get it done.
Let's get it done and let's put it out.
And we got a lot of new footage that was shot. I believe during the pandemic. Yeah, definitely during the pandemic.
Yeah,
but it was still the 3 hours of footage that had been shot, but that had not been edited properly.
Right.
And I'll say once again, this is a real object lesson on how editing is important in a final product, because there was a piece of there were like bits of dialogue, for example, with the Flash, that I didn't think were funny at all in the Whedon cut, but with the right music, they worked in this movie.
It takes a team. It really takes a team to put this stuff together. Did you know that with the original Superman 2 movie, back, the ones with 80s with, Kneel Before Zod, all that stuff, did you know that was also very similar in...
I know that there's a Donner cut that finally came out in 2006.
And it really is a difference. Same with that one, too.
I have not seen the Donner cut. Is that available to stream somewhere?
Not stream, but we do have it on DVD back home.
Oh, I do want to watch that.
Yeah. So it's not the first time that...
I'll watch it. I'll pick it up another day.
Yeah, it's not the first time that we've had a DC project be reconfigured. Now, granted, Warner Brothers did not...
Christopher Reeve was dead by then.
Yes. Warner Brothers was not as involved with that process as with this one. That was really an Orion Studios situation, so it's not as the same, but it really...
Superman 4 is still bad.
It really can...
I was going to say a hot take on a bad superhero movie that I think is better than the theatrical release of Justice League.
Talk about it.
Yeah, Batman and Robin. Because hear me out, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman. Their lines are so camp, so dumb. Like, walk you the dinosaurs, the Ice Age.
It's so classic, though.
Yeah, it's a bad movie, I know, but I genuinely love Batman.
That was really one of our first introductions to Batman and Robin just as characters.
Yeah, you and I were kids, we didn't know it was a bad movie back then, and then I watched it as an adult, wow, this is a bad movie, and I love it anyway.
Yup. It's too it's too nice.
Yeah, I genuinely have fun watching that movie.
Yeah,
Like,
just
it's like The Room or something.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, for sure. It's just we now have two DC films that have director's cuts basically, and you really can never find that many stories that have like director's cuts, especially to something of this degree. I don't think this would have happened without a streaming service, without HBO Max being out there for Warner Brothers. I don't think this movie exists without that, because they know that this wouldn't have made nearly as much of a financial return in the theater. So,
with the Snyder Cut, like in a good way, I felt like I was watching 300.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. So, do you think this is as comparable as potentially any Zack Snyder movie that you've seen? I don't know if you've seen Watchmen or Sucker Punch or whatever. But
I watched Watchmen a very long time ago, so I don't have an educated opinion on it.
That's fair.
300, it's like it's a fun movie. That's an interesting one. It like you almost Zack Snyder. I think Zack Snyder almost makes movies just so he can make extended cuts.
All part of his malicious plan. Yeah. Well, I am glad that it's out. I'm very excited to watch it. I do think it's remarkable that we even have this version of the movie from the get-go.
Was Superman Ultimate Edition rated R?
Yes.
Okay.
I think.
Maybe. I'm not 100% sure.
We can find out.
I want to say that. Oh, it's right there. Ha.
Yep, the theatrical version's PG-13 and the Ultimate Edition's rated R.
Okay, well, same with this one. It was, Snyder Cut. Well, we didn't cut. That can't possibly have been rated R because it's just reading. And then Snyder Cut was very rated R.
Oh, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, it was so bloody and I loved it.
DC lends itself to that stuff, even with the DC animated movies. In the whole 15 movie span, like I believe Justice League Dark Apocalypse War is rated R. Like even just it's DC as a whole.
That's a cartoon?
And that's a cartoon movie, yeah.
Oh boy.
And there's more rated R films in the DC canon like that. It lends itself.
Was Suicide Squad rated R?
No, it was PG-13.
Oh, okay.
And that was probably a big problem.
That was a problem.
It lends itself to rated R stuff more, like something that's more adult. Like a good friend of mine told me a long time ago, Marvel is very good with team dynamic and characters interacting with one another, incorporating other people. That's why the Avengers movies are so good as they are when they're the best of the whole MCU bunch. And with DC, they're very internal. It's very all psychological and what the individual characters are going through, like Batman and all of his rogues gallery, this particular Superman, and everything's internal and very individualized. So it's very different approach. It's different approaches, so that when you play with these psychologically unstable characters, it just makes more sense to put them in a rated R setting overall.
Unstable characters who are gods in some sense.
Yeah.
Like I think what the theatrical release of Justice League tried and didn't really succeed at doing was set up these 6 characters that are like Superman in a sense. They're very, very powerful. Probably the worst example of this is actually Cyborg. They didn't set up his abilities. It was unclear to me watching that movie his relationship to the Mother Box even.
And maybe I felt like I had now looking back on it, maybe I had an advantage of already understanding that was the case. So that's why I wasn't as bothered.
I didn't understand that at all. Like we didn't have like much of explanation of how he got the way he was, or like why he's just a depressed guy in a hoodie in an apartment.
If you happen to remember that there was a Mother Box there in the BVS footage.
Oh yeah, that's blink and you miss it though.
That is blink and you miss it. Yeah, I can understand that.
Like you, but the Snyder, without going into too much of it here, like the Snyder Cut explains all that and more. Because Cyborg was supposed to be the emotional heart of Zack Snyder's version, and that did not come across at all in the theatrical cut.
Oh yeah, Whedon did not see it that way. He wanted it to be Superman
and Superman wasn't even the heart. Like I think he tried to almost make Batman the moral compass, and that just didn't come across.
Yeah, yes and no. I understand that. Like, was he the right choice? No, I still enjoyed personally the idea.
You mentioned that Batman was trying to unite these superhuman characters when he had no business doing that. And yeah, in the theatrical cut, he really had no business doing that. The case was made better in the Snyder Cut. for him doing that.
I'm not surprised in the slightest.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing the Snyder Cut.
With the Snyder Cut, I felt like I was watching parts of Batman Arkham Knight. You'll understand that when you watch it.
Fantastic. It's a really good game. It's a great story with like side. We could talk about that separately another time.
Yeah.
But let us know what you guys think. Anything that Parker here said on anything with the theatrical cut of the theatrical cut of Justice League. Feel free to comment down below your thoughts. And as always, check out the Knights of the Dirty Table every Friday live at 5 on Twitch at the Zen Den Studios. Bye. Whoa. Welcome to the end of the Knights of the Dirty Table video that you just watched. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to our channel, like our video, share with all your friends, and catch our live stream every Friday live at 5 only on the Zen Den Studios Twitch channel. I gotta go wander off into space. See ya! Whoa! Whoa!